9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. 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 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Clear the tower. Roger, tower.
The All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, Volume 1, AARO's Findings, 1945 to October 2023. After a year of eyebrow-raising headlines about government whistleblowers alleging that the military was running secret programs focused on alien spaceships, and a month-long study of dogged investigative work through the shadows of classified Pentagon programs, the United States Defense Department announced Friday that it found no evidence that the government is covering up contact with extraterrestrials. The first sentence of the 63-page report on the government's involvement with unidentified anomalous phenomenon, a report mandated and driven by Congress, seemingly left no wiggle room. The study found no evidence that any U.S. government investigation, academic-sponsored research, or official review panel has confirmed that any sighting of a UAP represented extraterrestrial technology. All investigative efforts at all levels of classification concluded that most sightings were ordinary objects and phenomena as a result of misidentification. Welcome to the Alien Probe Podcast. It's Saturday, March 16th. I'm Doug. Joining me today for this momentous occasion of this phenomenal AARO report is Korey. How are you doing, Korey? What do you think?
They're good.
What do you think?
I'm doing good.
There's so much wrong with this report that, and by the way, AARO is the worst acronym ever. Can they make a worse acronym for this?
It's a long line of bad acronyms, I think, for a long line of very unfulfilling and evidence providing reports. So it shouldn't surprise us.
Well, let's talk about what led up to some of the programs that have led up to this. And I kind of dug it. They listed them. And so I listed them, and I think I found a couple that they didn't even have on their list. 1946 to 48 was Project Saucer. 48 and 49 was Project Sign. February through December of 1949, Project Grudge. Project Twinkle. Summer of 49 to summer of 1950. 51 to 54, Project Bear. 52 to 69, Project Bluebook. We know that one. 52, CIA Special Study Group. 1953, the Robertson Panel. 1953, the Durant Report. 1964, CIA Evaluation of UFOs. 1968, Project Pounce, led by Colonel Steve Wilson. I think that was about 1980. That was still going on. We think that that was morphed from another CIA program of UFO retrieval. The Condon Report in 68, National Academy of Sciences, the assessment of the Condon Report. 77, Carter administration tasked NASA about new findings on UFOs. 92, Roswell investigation inquiries. 2009 to 2012, ATIP and OSAP. And then we've got UAPTF in 20 and 21. And then 21 to 22, there was an AOIMSG and AOIMEXTC, which is an investigative program. 2022, UAP Independent Study Team. July of 22, AARO. And, with direction from congressional oversight. Not to mention NASA.
Yes, good old NASA.
So we're just kicking the can down the road. We just make a new acronym and a new If there's nothing there, why is there a million projects to study it? I don't understand.
I mean, I think, people, I think this is the government's way of, more specifically, the intelligence community way of, making the people feel like they're doing something about it, that, there's a legitimate effort to try to find out what's going on. But, really all of these, if you look at them, they kind of have the same conclusion. It just depends on some of the people that are involved with it. Bluebook is kind of one of the more famous ones. And what we can take from that, aside from the fact that, much as the new AARO report, is that they think that a lot of UFOs can be explained away by natural phenomena or, top secret classified programs or whatever it is. But it's really J. Allen Hynek, coming away from that and writing about later in a book that really wasn't the case, and that he actually changed his views on the phenomenon based on all of the evidence that they found, and a lot of that evidence wasn't even released in the report itself. So, that's kind of my take on it. I don't know why people keep putting their faith in the agency that we suspect is the agency that has the material and has been doing this is going to come out and tell us anything new. So, when they announced this, I can't remember, a couple of years ago, and some people got excited, and I just said, you're going to end up with the same result. So, and I think this one is just even lazier. I think this newest one, there's a lot of errors in it. There's a lot of missing information that's not even in there. And overall, I just think it's kind of a joke outright. That's kind of my opinion on it.
Yeah, there was it's understood that Captain Ruppelt, the first chief of Bluebook project, was ordered to explain away every report, and the Air Force sought to produce press stories in alignment with that position. That he would report anything that came up. He was ordered to just debunk it immediately. I mean, that was really, it was put out there like that they want to discover it, and then it was all of a sudden, nothing. Well, there's nothing to see here. The usual term. And Kirkpatrick, we don't know. We're assuming Kirkpatrick left in December. He left AARO, and we're assuming, everybody's assuming that I don't know if he wrote this. He oversaw this report, which is dog shit. Yeah. All right, it's dog shit. Okay, face it. It's nothing. It's a nothing burger report. It's a bunch of it's a history report of there's nothing, and then they said the other thing is they said that they they interviewed approximately 30 witnesses. Well, they interviewed 30 witnesses and debunked them, but they don't know how many. Approximately, they don't know exactly. I mean, if you have a report, if I have to write a report, approximately is not generally a term I use. It's like, here's the witnesses. We talked to these people. This is what they said. This is why it's not correct. Okay, whatever. But they don't list them, probably for obvious reasons. But, they didn't list them. They didn't list the agencies. I mean, they may have listed, they may have just mentioned an agency. But there was none of that, So I don't know. It's but they say it was non-human. They didn't find anything extraterrestrial, and so I kind of have to mention your buddy Jesse Michaels' interview, where he states that Thomas Townsend Brown. I can't get out of this without mentioning this. That he went behind behind enemy lines in 45, I think. Mm-hmm. And then he captured the Hanabu, the German version of the flying saucer that we developed, and I'll put a picture up there. That's the Hanabu.
Mm-hmm.
And well, that's a depiction of it or whatever. And that he brought that back to the U.S. and then the U.S. succeeded in reverse engineering that, and that we're flying these things, and that so there, you know why there's no aliens? Because there's no aliens, right? It's us.
Mm.
You know, I know you like that. I know that's one of your favorite concepts. What do you think?
So interestingly, Jesse Michaels did an interview recently, and I think I sent you that link.
Yep.
And I want to give the people the credit, but I think it's UFO Forkalite, I think is the name. And he actually discusses that documentary that he did about Thompson Brown. So he even himself, and I'm just going by what I heard on him, basically said that he still doesn't believe that that's an end all be all explanation for the UFO phenomenon. He thinks that might be some of it, but he himself is still a believer of the overall phenomenon, of what's happening. So, I mean, I think a lot of it can be explained. The AARO report hinges basically most of their findings on classified black projects of that can be explained by things that we were working on, the U2 spy plane SR-71. Well, the problem with that is that they don't they don't explain a lot of the characteristics of these craft or what people are seeing. So the U2 can't go up and down and side to side and shoot off and things like that. And I guess if they did get a Nazi UFO, and I've done a lot of research in that in the past, why did we spend billions and billions of dollars to make a rocket to go to the moon if they brought a UFO from Germany? And even to this day, why are we spending billions and billions of dollars to send rockets to the moon if that's the case?
And it's argued that the reason that we're not letting this out is that we don't want the other side, however you want to put it, to have this technology. Because we know once you bring it out, we're not very good at maintaining secrets. We build jets, and all of a sudden the Chinese have one that looks just like an F-15. I mean, almost just like it.
Yeah, or the F-35.
So
Yeah.
if we bring this out, can you imagine what is possible? If we have it, it's okay. We'll keep it under wrap. We can't let this out because once they get it, then, all hell will break loose because, you're shooting, thousands of miles an hour in a second or thousands of miles in a second. And, it's like, I mean, that's the argument. And I don't necessarily think, and I agree, it's not the end all be all. I think we have it, as we trudge through as we talk about it every week, every day almost, we trudge through the subject. It's like, what is going on? Why you and I think we have it somehow, but can we, and the other side of the coin is we have it, but we haven't figured out how it works, and we don't want them to know that we even have it because then we think they have it already, right? I mean, they've captured their own and they can't figure it out either, probably. And it's I like to describe as dropping the Harley Davidson on the Mayflower and having them try to figure out how it works. There's some things they would be able to figure out. Well, it rolls, but I don't know what makes it go. So I don't know. The other thing is, the other equation is our black projects and our money. Where's our money? Where's our tax dollar going?
Mm-hmm.
These billions of dollars that they want to spend on defense. It has no oversight. I mean, this is an old story with our pal Mike Turner of, he has Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. That's his district, shockingly enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that,
there's no conflict there.
We pay our tax dollars. Our tax dollars go into defense spending. It goes
Yeah.
to
Well,
Lockheed. Lockheed goes and pays the Mike Turners of the world money to keep that flowing so that, they can get rich.
think it's a perfect situation. And, we talk about this all the time too, is that, you go back to, 47, and you basically get this material, and you want to keep it out of government oversight, and you want to keep it, basically in private industry. So, you hand it over to private industry, it then becomes intellectual property or whatever, that they exclusively own, even though the government, is the one that probably procured it. And you can just sit on that for indefinitely. I mean, there's no, like, even if the Congress gets, the only thing the Congress can do is go after whatever we're spending our money on that might be related to this topic. But, once it's in the private aerospace industry, I mean, who knows where the heck it is, or how they're going to get to it, or, you know, uh, it's just, yeah, it's a perfect setup. And then you got the CIA, which was formed around that same time, probably specifically, what does C stand for? Central, right? You
Yeah.
centralized every single, aspect of your intelligence apparatus. And then you basically build these walls around all this stuff that you want to keep secret. And I mean, it's just the perfect, I can't think of a better way to keep this a secret for 80 years. Um, you know, I don't know how else you would do, better way to do it, unless you're just a dictatorship and you could just have full control over it. But yeah, I mean, and then related to the report, a lot of the things that they cite weren't even, physically capable of doing the things that people have claimed to be seeing over the years. So, the AARO car, which only, flies maybe 4 or 5 feet above the ground. I don't think anybody, maybe if somebody's driving by and they see it on a tarmac, I could say, well, I saw
Yeah.
a UFO, but when it's not up in the air, it's not doing all these other things. So I think they hide behind that too much. You can say that there's a lot of misidentification, because I've done it myself. There's times I've seen
Yeah.
things, and I'm sure you have too, and you thought, oh, that looks like something interesting, but
Yeah.
then, for whatever reason, you figure out it's, kind of, it's conventional or whatever. So, um, yeah, but it's just frustrating. It's frustrating. I don't want them to spend any more money on this. This is not the way they're going to find it. You're much better off, going to other alternate sources like MUFON, who've been collecting data, firsthand, secondhand, thirdhand witnesses and stuff like that. I wish that, there was more access to that information. But yeah, anybody who's thinking that the government's going to come out and figure this out, with the exception of Congress, if Congress can rein in, where the money's going and what they're spending it on. And if we do, happen to have this stuff in Utah or Nevada or whatever, maybe they'll get access to it. But yeah, it's a bizarre thing.
It's
Like it's,
interesting. Burchett and Luna have been very quiet lately about, because I'm on UFO Twitter, and both those
mhm.
I have both those guys on there, and
Yeah, you're brave, because I won't go near UFO Twitter.
that's where I get all my info.
Yeah, and it's good. A
That's where
lot
I
of
get
people
my news.
yeah, a lot of people use that as a resource. But if I did that, I'd probably lose my mind.
Yeah, it's well, you just have to wait, take the good with the bad. I don't know, but they're quiet. And by the way, what about if they want to interview people? Did they interview Grush and Lazar? I don't think they interviewed those guys.
I don't think they even, I mean, I didn't read the whole thing. So just to be,
That's fine.
honest,
That's fine.
I don't even think they use sources. I don't even know if they cited sources.
They didn't.
I don't even think that they interviewed Fravor.
No.
I don't believe, and if I'm wrong on that, I apologize. But to me, that's one of the most credible that you want to, because not only do you have access to eyewitness testimony, you have access to, this should have been able to access the radar data, or they should have been able to get access to the other aspects of that we haven't seen. We've only heard from witnesses, and you know that's completely missing as far as I know. And that's one of the most credible, witnesses, I think, or, events that's taken place probably in, 40, 50 years. The type of eyewitnesses, the characteristics, everything that was going on, they have radar data, multiple craft were tracking these things. So they knew exactly where it was going, and they can give you all this, the stats. So like I said, if it's in there, I apologize, but to my knowledge, I don't even think that information's in there.
No, and it's interesting. The Tic Tac video is there was it was kind of funny that it came out that it was real. It didn't come out, but it's like it was stated somewhere, probably the government, that was just that was an airplane. That was another jet that they were tracking. It just didn't look like, it just didn't, it didn't, for whatever reason, the camera and the video didn't equate that thing, because they said, oh, it went back to its where the rally point was. And it's like, yeah, it went back to the rally point because that's the rally point. And it was,
yeah, but it went back to the rally point in a matter of seconds.
Yeah, but
the difference.
Well, they kept that, how'd they keep that thing on a gun camera if it was moving that fast? That's interesting.
So I that whole event is, we've only seen a portion of the video for that. Right. So, yeah. And not only that, they say that there's higher resolution video of that event, and it took place longer than basically what we can see just in the video part of it. So I don't think that this is, you're dealing with human beings, so you got to take that into account. I really don't think that Fravor, former Top Gun, probably one of the best that's out there, in one of the best aircraft at the time, who's actually, not only visually seeing this thing, but he's tracking it through whatever his tracking systems that he has. I can't imagine that he would misidentify that. I find that very, very hard to believe.
Did he see it other than through the gun camera?
Yeah, he said he saw it come past his F-18.
Okay. So
there were times when and that was one of the things about it. So if this is the government, using this technology, that's a very, very, very dangerous thing to be doing, because that strike group was doing, they were specifically out there doing maneuvers. And if there's some, black ops program going on at the same time, first of all, I don't, there's people that'll attest to that wouldn't happen. I think there was another interview, and I apologize, I can't cite the exact what it was in, but there was a gentleman, I think he was a former military, that was talking about that and how they would never do something like that. I don't think that's true, because I think they do whatever the hell they want. But you've got a situation where you've got these armed craft running around, and then you have an not only unidentified, but a jamming. This craft was jamming their systems. That is an act of war. So if China or Russia decided to come over to the U.S. coastline and started jamming our systems, you're talking about an instant international incident. So, basically just to not have even talked about that particular circumstance. And I think that's specific, because I think they wanted to avoid it, because there is so much evidence, to that particular event, basically. So, that was one of the big things that kind of stood out with me.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't even talk about the Tic Tac thing. I mean, it's unbelievable that there's many sources that say there's, we have test ranges for this kind of thing, if that are top secret. Well, the ranges aren't secret, but it's, they could close it off and do a test and do this rather than have it be a surprise, unless they wanted it to be a surprise, to see how they'd react in some manner. I don't know. It's hard to say, but it's
possible. Anything's possible, and I wouldn't put it past them. But, if we look at the videos over Area 51, basically they take that thing out, it goes up a little bit, kind of moves to the side, and then it goes back down. And maybe that was the limit of it at the time. But I just, not only that, the visual, he said there was something under the water. So there was something approximately the size of a 747 underneath the water. Was that some super top secret black ops submarine that was launching these things? I mean, I don't know. Who knows? But that's a very highly credible witness to completely leave out of this report, I think is absolutely, just ridiculous. And I think this is only volume 1. So are we getting more of this?
Yeah.
Is that another?
Yeah. And they're doing them every quarter, I think.
Oh, good.
So we're going to get another. Well, we got a new now. We got a new director. Okay. Not that I'm more confident about this one, but I always said, and you coined the phrase that and I'm going to blame it on you. Kirkpatrick's a CIA stooge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think, I saw that term come up, and I use it in Twitter. I'll say every time somebody brings him up. I don't mention your name, of course, but I just say he's just, Kirkpatrick's a CIA stooge, and people love that. People love it.
Hey, I don't know why. I mean, why we would, even you could even Grush, like, why would you, trust anybody from the intelligence community, right? That's a government entity that is basically all about subterfuge and games and spycraft and everything else. So here we are hinging our basically our conclusions on these reports that they're going to release. And NASA did the same thing, right? They came out, and I don't know if they released a report, but they actually came out and did a press conference where they dragged out some guy that looked like he was in his 90s, probably
the Crypt Keeper.
During the Apollo program. And he said, oh, well, we've got there's no evidence to show that we're doing this. Then, why are you doctoring photographs then? You're not enhancing photographs. You're actually, altering and blacking out photographs. So the behavior that they have, and if they wanted to shut this down, I believe that they could do that, unless there was really something there. But their behavior to the contrary of all of everything that's happened and is happening is what keeps people going. And I just feel like sometimes it's that they're just screwing with us, but why? I mean, even at this point, it's like, okay, I think the Russians, if they have their own material, or the Chinese, so if you want to keep if you want to keep that illusion that we have things that they don't, or it is UFOs, I think we're kind of beyond that at this point. I could see that back in the Cold War, the 50s, 60s, whatever. But at this point, I mean, just, and maybe this report is that, I guess, if you look at it, they're saying, oh, nothing to see here. So this is our definitive report. So this is, whatever, this is where you're at.
It's there's an upheaval of people. And we've talked about what is the percentage of persons that believe there could be. Of course, everybody I talk to is, if they're not into it like we are, they at least say, there's got to be something out there. They don't say you're crazy. Back in the 60s, you don't talk like that. You just say, no, there's no aliens. You're crazy. You could be committed. But back in the 50s, it was interesting because in the 50s, public trust of the government ran about 78%. People trusted that the government would do the right thing, that they were, in fact, the people government. Today, a maximum of 30%. There's a big mistrust of, government, and for good reason. We're getting to be like a third world country when it comes to, government officials on the take. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and that's been around forever. But yeah, it's I think even more so. I think that the disparate, discrepancy between, essentially our government is not going to get a history lesson, but, it was all about transparency and access, right? We elect our officials, thinking that they're going to go and they're going to do their best, based on, where they're from and, the community that they represent. And, capitalism isn't a perfect system. It's probably one of the better systems, but the aerospace industry, somebody really needs to get a look into what is going on. And I think this applies not only to this aspect, but I think also to a lot of the stuff that's going on. And I think everybody's got kind of like anti-Boeing sentiment going on right now. But
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but
a lot.
Boeing is
Something fell off a plane yesterday too.
Oh, okay, right, yeah. But that's symptomatic of the government involvement with with the aerospace industry, right? So I know that that's something completely different, but Boeing is basically a monopoly. They don't have really any competition except for Airbus. And even that, so you basically got a two-party system, just like we do. Got a two-party system that's always like, you're going to have your opportunity, we're going to have our opportunity, but we're going to control everything. So the same thing with the other ones, the Raytheons, the Lockheeds, and everything. I mean, they've got full control over everything that's in there. Nobody questions it. They don't have to come out with a budget, right? Even though they're congressionally mandated to do so, but yet they don't have to. And even if they do, it doesn't have to be necessarily honest. So, this is another big part of problem into this aspect. And I don't know. I don't know where to go from here.
It's well, now that you mentioned Boeing, we can't let the show go by without the unfortunate suicide of the witness who had 32 years of experience with Boeing. And said that they was putting substandard parts on. They weren't defective parts necessarily, but they weren't up to spec. Mm-hmm. So they had them in a bin. These parts, and one of the things he was, I think, talking about is he'd have parts in a parts bin, and then they were, okay, well, we can't use these parts because they're whatever out of spec. They'd function, but they weren't up to the standard. But they would use them anyway because they needed to get the planes out. So. Yeah. He had testimony on last Friday, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And then, so he did his deposition on Friday, and then he was supposed to testify on Saturday, and unfortunately committed suicide in the parking lot of his hotel before he got a chance to testify. I thought that's strange.
The only reason I heard about that is because you showed me that somebody had tweeted about it, and I think I saw one other little thing that came up about it, like on the main media, but nobody's talking about it.
It's funny because I get a lot. I have to when I get news like that on Twitter. Mm-hmm. I immediately try to cross-reference it, go to the internet and kind of see if it's been reported elsewhere. But it took 2 days. It did hit the mainstream media because Channel 3 out here reported. Of course, they reported it as a suicide without laughing, which I thought was they did good with that. They didn't bust out. Yeah, he committed suicide. But that's, to your point, that's, is Boeing how much? Yeah, it's a two-party system. And Airbus aren't they English? UK?
I think it's like a European collaboration. I think there's multiple,
that's their government airliner.
yeah, and they're pretty much they're the only two that are out there. So you can do whatever you want when you have that, and then you got the government basically backing you up. You got a government backed monopoly. Douglas doesn't make I don't believe they at least commercial aircraft anymore. They were for a while, and that's because the Boeing kept getting all the contracts. So why are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But it all relates to what we're talking about in here, and it's just if you really I think Richard Dolan he always does a good job, but he did a really good job of pointing out a lot of the flaws that are in this, because one of the things that always stood out to me was, and I think they even mentioned in here, and I don't know if he mentioned this, but they always say that the Roswell crash, they were basically test dummies, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't even start making those test dummies until I think the 1950s. So could they have possibly started making them a little bit earlier? Sure, whatever, but they weren't actually being manufactured and tested upon until like the 1950s. So for you to put that in this report, the lack of the detail in this report is just staggering, from what I've heard on, people that are much more knowledgeable than me talking about what's actually in it, so, and you've done much more research into it than I have.
Yeah,
but
I read it, and it's, it's not that long. It's 69 pages or whatever, 68. Mm-hmm. But it's not, it's well put together. the format is great if it weren't for the garbage content. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's easy read. You know, it's got an intro and it's got the body, which is, a, some of the dates are wrong on the incidents. But, they talk about all the things that UFO land knows about that,
Hmm.
they say that, is they debunk, that none of this is true. Roswell, was a balloon. They don't say that, but that's
Yeah.
obviously the story that came out. But,
Project Mogul, I think, is what they
yeah,
specifically
Mogul
cite.
was
Yeah.
the one that's the balloon project. But, was Roswell, were they aliens or were they actually, we talk about this, were they human? Was it us? Were we
Hmm.
doing I don't know why we'd fly around an electrical storm. That wouldn't be too brilliant, if you're
Yeah.
testing something, that's probably, unless they were specifically trying to, and there were two craft in that one they didn't find for 2 months that had
Yeah.
alien decomposed bodies, and they were torn apart by it because the thing crashed and was open. So, wolves and things got in there and ate them.
Hmm.
Um, but they were identified, I don't know if they couldn't identify them. If they were assuming since it was a flying saucer that it had to be people from another planet. Are they from another planet? Or are these things really extraterrestrial? Or are they coming from, inside the Earth through the Antarctic? And then one thing that came up this week, it was interesting that I didn't cross check this or fact check it. You see that strut thing that looks like a structure off the coast of California, Southern California. Have you seen that? I think I showed you that picture one time. I had it on Google
Uh,
Earth. It looks
in the
like
water.
underwater, yeah.
Mm-mm. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, so there was a structure. It looks like a structure. It's hard. It isn't. You can't tell specific. It's like almost pillars or openings, like six
Hmm.
openings, and you can literally see it on. If you Google Earth it, you can literally see it. This week they blurred it out. You can't see it anymore.
Google did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Apparently, yeah. You can't see. Well, good with Google Earth. If you look, there's a date on it.
Hmm.
So when you type in, that you have to go to SoCal and you actually have to then move out. It had the coordinates on the internet. The actual, coordinates of where it was. So you could just punch in the coordinates on Google Earth and then zoom in. And it's like, holy shit, there it is right there. And it's interesting that you can see it through you know, the water.
Yeah.
So I don't know how deep. It's pretty deep, I think. And everybody always says, "Well, why don't we send a submersible down there and get close-up pictures of it?" No, no. But all this stuff we're the Titanic, thousands of feet underwater. But this thing isn't thousands of feet underwater. You can see it, through Google Earth. So it's probably hundreds of feet, maybe.
So,
And
but they actually. So, what did they do? They
so the pictures aren't like right now. I mean, when you look through Google Earth, you probably know this. It's not real time. It's a
Mhm.
picture. It's kind of like when they drove the car by. When you
Yeah.
do, the time they
Yeah.
drive
Yeah.
the car
Yeah.
by and take the picture of the street you're looking at. And so it was years. It was probably years ago. What this thing was. I should have probably took. There's other pictures on the internet of it. It's all over the place.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I'll look into that.
Um,
Yeah.
it's really
Um,
interesting. But then now, if you look at it today, I haven't looked at it. And it might not even be true, but it's probably. I guess it probably is. So now they don't. By blocking that out, they're saying that there's something that. By actually, it's just like this. It's just like this report. By saying all this, they're really saying with all these programs, we're really trying to look for something, but you know what I mean? And
yeah. They're
we're studying it and we're finding stuff, but we can't tell you.
Well, their behavior is contrary to the findings that they give to us. They're saying, oh, like nothing's here, nothing to see here. I mean, usually the only time they block something out or blur it out is if it's like a military installation or something like Area 51. They do that. But yeah, Catalina's weird. Expedition X. I was
I
going
watched it
watching.
last night.
Oh,
They
did
had
you?
there was the UFO. I don't know if you saw the one where they were in Mexico and it was the UFO. I tried to find. You said it's beside a specific episode, and I couldn't find it. But it's this one had the UFOs around a volcano in Mexico, and it had
Yeah. Okay.
the guy and the girl,
Yeah.
and they actually saw they saw something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, yeah, well, it could have been, Josh. What is it, Josh Gates? I think.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, it could have been a reflection off, there because it's an active volcano. Like there's smoke coming. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
explode any second. It's kind of like Mount St. Helens,
They
you
also
know.
had a geologist, or I think it was a geologist, and he was talking about this. It's a specific type of lightning
Yeah,
that comes out of where the near the
exactly.
caldera. Yeah,
Yep.
but they found some interesting stuff on there. But they did one on it's a two-parter on Catalina that's pretty good if you can find that one. All of them are pretty good. I mean, it's a show, it's drama, but they actually do some pretty interesting. They find some interesting things. They actually kind of come up with explanations for things. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, Catalina is a weird one. I mean, I was there. We spent the day there. I didn't see anything because I think we took the ferry back at night. And that point, we were just kind of tired. But I didn't see anything while I was there. But I mean, that's a pretty active spot that I think even a Navy admiral came out recently and said that we need to look more into off the coast because of some anomalies they found outside, in the water. Um, that's
Well, they say these
yeah.
things can go at like supersonic speeds underwater. That's amazing.
I
you
mean,
know?
yeah, but that's it. But that's all Black Ops. I mean, it's they can do amazing things with Black Ops. I mean, but these craft, and we've talked about this before. It's like if you can negate gravity, and nothing around you is going to affect you.
Yeah.
You could be in water, you could be in air, you could be in jello, and it wouldn't matter because you can defy whatever that bubble is around the craft. I mean, it's just and you have to the eyewitness testimony over the years. I mean, that's kind of, we talk about this. I think this, it's really popular right now. It's kind of leveling off a little bit with the UFO stuff. I think Burchett did say something recently in response to the report. I haven't seen it though, but I think he did have I think he gave a statement or something about it. But we still have the meat and potatoes of the phenomenon, which is the eyewitness testimony over the years and everything. That's my Bible, right? I mean, somebody can come out, Grush can come out and say all this stuff, and that's fine. There's no proof to it. But what I go back to is the historical record and everything that occurred, and to the contrary of what basically this report says. There's nothing new in here. There's nothing. I mean, you're almost dumber for having read it
Yeah.
because you have to fact check half of it. It's it might be interesting to actually go into some of these older programs. I mean, I read Bluebook. I read that one years ago, but actually look into them and find out what they did find and some of their findings and everything that are in there, and then compare it to what this newer one is, because it just seems to me like they just every couple of years, come out and say, okay, well, we're going to study this, and then you got ATIP and all that stuff. And that's all convoluted because, some people say that that it did do what it did, but it didn't do what it did. Elizondo, some people try to discredit him. I mean, there's just so much going on. You really have to just kind of base yourself in the reality of the past to try to keep kind of level headed through all the everything that's going on around you.
Like Grush though, he's not a first-hand witness. Everything he's hearsay that I haven't seen everything. Does he have photographs himself, or did I see this, or did somebody tell me that?
We don't know.
Is he a CIA stooge?
I mean, Danny Sheehan's talking about walking in an office and
Yeah.
taking a photograph and which isn't firsthand witness. And a
Yeah.
photograph could have been, I mean,
I think it could be anything.
Grush might have these materials. I mean, there's 40 whistleblowers we haven't heard from.
Yeah.
I don't think Congress has even talked to them yet. So, what is going on with this? Like, what's the holdup? It's all the the top secret, the clearances and top secret, whatever level 1 through 50. I mean, it's just it's an overly convenient system to just put a sticker on it, top secret, and then basically you don't have access to
Well,
it.
they never mention when they say we can't get access to that. Who is that guy? Who's the one that says you can't see it? It's the Pentagon. They say it. They state an agency. They never say General such and such said that we can't talk to this. Well, they did say that at one of the
Mm-hmm.
bases when Burchett and Luna went to one of the bases in Florida, and they had an eyewitness pilot and photo. I don't
And
know if they have photographs, but they
yeah. And
you
they were
know
told they were told they didn't have access to the base. And then they made a phone call and said, yeah, we do.
yeah
And then
yeah
they kind of turned around. But they did, they tried to get access to, I can't remember the base, but yeah, the same thing like you're talking about. It's just the information's out there. It's just, we've heard about it, they've talked about it, but we just need somebody to like Edward Snowden it, where they just,
Snowden. Yeah,
leak it out. And so people have access to it.
it's
Like,
dangerous, man. It's people who, and well, that's the thing. They don't want to. That's the thing. They don't. And I'll cite the Kennedy assassination. I'm just going to say
mm-hmm.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of that's that type of thing where that's not really something that you talk about. That you put out there, that that and state the facts that he wasn't just assassinated by one guy, that there was a bullet that came through the front of the windshield of the car also,
Mm-hmm.
and
Well, that was government mandated to
yeah
release that information, and we still don't even
yeah
have access to that, and it's just kind of just gone away.
the
You
concern
know,
is that we're going to say, okay, we're going to release it, and then they're going to release it in a manner that they say that it debunks the whole thing, kind of like they did with this Kennedy assassination. I mean, it's those
mm-hmm.
people are dead that did that. That we're never going to see who did it. Nobody's ever going to cop to who did it. They're probably dead now anyway.
Yeah,
We're never going to see who ordered, who did the order. Like you said, it's the mob. Probably don't want to go too deeply into that here, but the CIA is like the mob. I mean, they're designed, to take care of things in the same manner that the mob. It's modeled behind what the mob did. You
yeah,
know,
they're designed to operate outside of the purview of government oversight, right? Just like the mob does. The mob finds an economy within an economy, right? And they fill a, whatever a need, black market. The CIA is no different. I mean, I'm sure they've done some good things. I'm sure there's a lot of good people that do there, but it's an organization that was designed from the get go to basically, you know, in the name of national security, protect us from, things from outward and from within. And when you do that, you can do things. And I mean, there's so many things you could cite. I mean, Richard Dolan he talks about this stuff all the time. He's if you read his books, he talks about it. The things that they've gotten away with, and even outside of the UFO community, right? Like they're just involved in so many things. And really, I think Congress, and too bad it's an election year. So probably not a lot's going to happen. We'll see if Burchett's even there. We'll see if Luna's still there. But if we do, hopefully, if they are, then at that point, maybe we'll get a little bit more, more serious about it. Maybe Mike Johnson and Mike Rogers won't be there. I doubt it, but
yeah, they have too much. There's too much money there. In fact, they're, Turner is going after Burchett. I mean, what I heard is he's throwing money to get him ousted. And so because he's kind of thorn in his side. Will Luna get reelected? There's going to be there. In fact, Burchett lost one of his supporters due to his support of the UFO. And I'm going to say UFO. I hate UAP. I'm always going to say UFO.
I hate UAP.
Well, they changed they again changed the name of it to, it's like you guys are still, we don't want to look, because that's what that is. It's the flying saucer, UAP. Well, it could be anything. It's anything but something we know.
Yeah.
But
But it's usually a balloon.
yeah, it's the balloon. But
the
with the Kennedy thing, he put together the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, I think, and because the CIA, he knew that CIA was too far-reaching and not paying attention to what his wishes were, and so he develops the DIA. Well, then, I'm gonna put my people in this, and then we're gonna abolish the CIA, I believe. And then it's going to be taken over, and it's going to be the DIA. Well, I don't think people in the CIA really appreciated that too much. And then that's what, there's other things. His brother, Robert, wasn't a fan of, the underworld. And then, so, he gets, so this is how we're taking care of things now. So then he gets killed, and they they try to blame it on, just this this one guy just did it.
Yeah, and then Jack Ruby gets killed.
Yeah.
It's like,
so, and is this how it's just a mess? And then,
yeah,
is any of this written down? They're not, none of this is written, there's not a memo. This isn't done by memo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This stuff's done, behind the scenes. It's all word of mouth. The orders are given, the money's, they maybe special operations people. Like you said, there's people, as I read about, they select special people that are sociopaths, basically. What I mean? To commit these murders. And they're not going to be admitting, the sociopaths are not going to be running to the press with the story, or they get killed. They do the deed, then they get offed magically in some manner that we kind of like Forrestal.
Yeah,
all the way back.
Forrestal's a really good one.
That's my favorite example of, he was with Majestic 12, and then he gets, he magically falls out of a window, and Bethesda Mayville Hospital back east. And the guy just went to the bathroom or something that was supposed to be watching him. And how did he get out of the window?
Well, and there was also like scratch marks outside the window of somebody fighting to stay in the window. Yeah. Somebody, Mike Barra, I was telling you about him. He's the UFO researcher. I think he's on, what's that one show? Ancient Astronauts. A lot. He was on a show, Nerdrotic, and they were talking about that. I think I told you about that. And he did a really good kind of a overview of Forrestal and that situation. Richard Dolan's doing it. A lot of other people have talked about it. But yeah, that's a very interesting, again, the timeline. He was involved, prior to Roswell, and then through Roswell, and then after Roswell, and then that's when things started happening with them. And somebody can go crazy like that. But and then the night that his brother's supposed to go, his brother basically told him, said, "I want to see my brother. I'm tired of you, keeping him from me." And then that's the night he throws himself out a window.
Yeah,
it's just.
Well, he was coming around. They said he wasn't. I think possibly he was. Because they were doing that. A lot of LSD. Because there's a story. I don't know if you've heard that Manson was part of. That cycle program that the government put out.
Yeah, they were testing it on a bunch of hippies, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, the LSD, and he was actually not really working for the government, but they were, steering him in these certain directions to see if he could be manipulated into, which he did.
Yeah,
manipulate these people to do bad things.
I think the CIA is a cult in a sense.
Yeah.
Right? The cult of national security, like everything in the name of national security, or everything in, there's obviously, I think there's some inner part of it that's completely unaccountable to anything that, outside of the normal apparatus that does all, all the other things. And I think there's the deep state, whatever you want to call it, the dark state, deep state. So yeah, I don't know, man. Illuminati. I don't know.
Well, it's the government above the we the people government. I mean, we think that Luna and Burchett and there's a couple others now that are involved, and the more they can get involved, they can't get everybody out. They could, I guess. Shouldn't say that. They could completely, which would be suspect. But like I said, Turner's shoveling a lot of money to the opposition to Burchett and to get elected. And, it's going to get ugly out there. These guys will just go away. The rest of the people are going to be like, well, I don't want to just get ousted. And I don't know. I don't know if there's term limits because they're representatives. I don't know if
there's no term limits.
So it's like the Turners, and they'll never get this resolved. But people love money, though, dude. I mean, people.
But they're on the radar now. Prior to this, I didn't know who Mike Turner was. I didn't know that he was in the same district as Wright Patterson. I didn't know all that stuff. So at least people are aware now. And so, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting year with the elections going on. Maybe we'll get those people out. Who knows? Maybe there is enough people, hopefully, that are watching, that are paying attention. They should be, Burchett and Luna, what they're doing, people should be, I don't want to say scared, but they should be kind of, fear that what we suspected, you now know that this stuff is going on. Right. And to go back to, what we originally, this podcast was about, but this report seemed rushed.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's very strange that it just suddenly comes out, and like they're just trying to kind of get away from it or, whatever. I don't know when volume 2 is coming out, is that like 2 or 3 years down the road, but it seemed like
that's months. It's supposed to come out.
Oh, it's like months?
3 months. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope they hire a better editor next time to do
some
fact checking and some,
Well, I don't know. They've dished out all this. I mean, it's what do they got left to talk about? I mean, they only what happened since they reviewed everything from 47 through 45 or whatever through October of last year. Now they're going to review everything that happened from October of last year through March or April of this year. And then, there's been some sightings, and it's it's going to be interesting to come out but what percent of the population, because a lot of people are going to read the report, or not going to read the report, but they're going to read every news. And that's the other thing to talk about when they release this, they had they selected the news agencies, the ones that are bought and paid for by them.
Yeah.
None of the ones that, like you said this week, is like, well, nobody's even News Nation. And News Nation really hasn't been, with Ross Coulthart, he's got a kind of his own thing now, but, they haven't really been not up front, but they haven't really been talking about this either.
Yeah. So, occasionally there's a story that pops up, but yeah, you're right. It's not and there's just not a whole lot going on. I mean, I'm a very moderate UFO person, right? I don't, it's an interest to me. I've been into it since I was a kid, but it comes and goes in waves, and it's kind of on the downslope now. I think it's just, there's not a whole lot of new information. I think AARO was just trying to kind of nip it in the bud and say, okay, here, we're done. So hopefully, some more information comes out, we get access to these photos and, supposed firsthand, testimony or whatever. I mean,
Lazar has seen it all, buddy. Lazar's seen it. He's touched it. He's been in it.
I don't know. You always want to pick on Bob Lazar.
Where is Lazar? If you're going to do, they don't even pick the guy that has come out publicly and said they saw that. They don't talk. Did they talk to him? And then they figured out, well, what you saw is, what you said really isn't what they didn't cite any names back to the beginning of the show.
No, I did.
Approximately 30 people.
I can't remember where I heard it, but somebody was saying, and that could be just a YouTuber or something, but somebody was saying that Lazar was going to possibly meet with Burchett and Luna. So I I don't have any sources or proof of that, but I did hear somewhere that that was something that was possibly being set up to where he actually officially would go on the under oath, go on the record and talk to Congress about it.
I'll pay big money to see that, brother.
Hey,
You know,
yeah,
I want him to go in front of Congress and tell that story about how he was in the flying saucer.
yeah, I do too. But
I want it to be real. You know what
yeah.
I mean? And we could
Well,
go on and on about Bob, but
yeah, I think it is real. I think it's a real thing. Don't get discouraged. I mean, whatever. The government can say whatever they want to say, but all these people can't be lying, right? And they don't even talk about, you've had guests on that are experiencers. There's a whole other aspect to this phenomenon that, really needs to be investigated. Or not investigated, but I think science needs to really take a hard look at what's happening with that, right? It's a whole different kind of division of what we talk about, but there's so much more to this than just what, is everybody's talking about right now with, Grush and all that stuff, that goes way back, I would arguably even say to the origins of humanity.
yeah,
There's something happening, there's something out there. I think it's real. That hasn't changed. I don't think Jesse Michaels dissuaded me with his thing. I think that
yeah.
the government does probably have. The Nazis probably had UFOs. I don't know. But ultimately, you just got to kind of, keep the faith and just.
Well, I think I agree that with Jesse that it's one aspect of a much larger thing. I mean, they talk about. I mean, we could go off on a rant about this, but there how many different innate non-human intelligences there are, and are they involved in the government, and are they, I mean, are they coming from another dimension, and that, they're sliding in and out of this dimensional portal. That's why we can never find them.
They don't even know how old the universe is. They just came
Yeah.
out this week and said that it's twice as old as they thought it was.
Yeah.
So,
They don't, they're going to rewrite the history books at
yeah,
some point are going to get
I mean,
rewritten. I mean, somebody, somehow but can the history just be lost, or is there something out there that could just say this is what really happened?
yeah, if a UFO crashes into your house.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, buddy. We're going to wrap it up. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Alien Probe Podcast. We welcome comments, questions, or requests to alienprobepodcast@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook. Check out our website, alienprobe.net, Twitter and Instagram @alienprobepod, YouTube and Rumble. Like and subscribe, preferably Rumble, because YouTube sucks, I think. Anyway, so thank you, Korey. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Doug.
Thank you. And I'll see you next time.